Hey everybody, it's Steve Knight with another Consensus Medical Systems Blood Flow Minute. Another posting on social media prompted me to jump into the fray and take advantage of an opportunity to make some teaching points about cardiac arrhythmias and Doppler waveforms. From time to time, we see Doppler waveforms that are erratic in one way or another. I like to classify these as either irregular or regularly irregular. Unfortunately, few vascular centers put an EKG trace on their duplex images, so one can't be 100% certain. But with a bit of know-how, we can sometimes project what is going on with the heart to a certain extent. The waveform here is one I would classify as regularly irregular. I would also make the claim that the patient is in sinus rhythm. That is to say that the pacing of their heart is regular, but they seem to have 2 beats per second, which translates to a heart rate of 120 beats per minute, which falls into the category of tachycardia. The key feature of this waveform is the tracing of alternating velocities without a gap in time between the smaller ones and the larger ones. If there was a gap, such as in this waveform, I would be tempted to call it a run of bigeminy. And by the way, if you want to sound cool when you talk about cardiac rhythms, use the term run or salvo or burst to describe 3 or more sequential ectopic beats. Here is an example of a run of trigeminy with 3 beats followed by a slight pause. AFib is harder to diagnose without an EKG because despite the atrium dancing like your drunken uncle at a wedding, the ventricle tends to continue to beat with some regularity. However, the stroke volume alters from beat to beat, so the velocities also tend to vary. Why does the stroke volume and concomitant peak systolic velocity change during these arrhythmias? That may best be explained if we use an imperfect analogy. Let's think of the ventricle as a cannon that fires blood out into the aorta. To make the cannon fire, it needs the equivalent of gunpowder. The more the gunpowder, the bigger the bang. In this analogy, the gunpowder is put into the cannon by the atrium. Think of this as a conveyor belt working continuously when the heart is in a normal sinus rhythm. If we start and stop this conveyor belt every 2 beats, more powder will enter the chamber on alternating beats and we will get a bigger bang, a stronger beat, with a higher velocity following a pause. That's what happens with bigeminy. The heart pauses and more blood fills the chamber, stretching the wall of the heart to a more optimal degree, allowing a stronger squeeze. The same thing happens in trigeminy, but it happens when the conveyor belt pauses after each 3rd beat. In AFib, or atrial fibrillation, the conveyor belt looks more like Lucille Ball working in the chocolate factory. To circle back to the original waveform, it's hard to determine the true cause without an EKG. This pattern can be caused by atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular response. It could also represent a phenomenon called pulsus alternans, which is caused by severe ventricular dysfunction or other form of cardiac pathology such as pericardial effusion. I hope this has been informative. Thank you for your support and comments. If you'd like to learn more about this or any other blood flow topic, please drop me a line. Until next time, this has been another Consensus Medical Systems Blood Flow Minute.